And the last matter for this evening is House Bill 8267, sponsored by Representative Norton, who I don't see here, but I do see that there are several witnesses that have signed up. Councilwoman Vella Wilkinson? Oh, yeah. Come forward, please. Press the button so it's up.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and ladies and gentlemen of the committee. My name is Councilwoman Camille Vella Wilkinson, and I represent Ward 3 in the city of Warwick. I was also the sponsor of this legislation as it went through the various cycles in the city of Warwick prior to it coming to you this evening. There were actually 3 separate issues that we had originally looked at, potentially to be questions on the ballot, all of which would be charter changes. One had to do with the makeup of the school committee, so that it would be increased from its current 5 members to 7 members, and rather than it going from all elected to 3 elected and 4 appointed. The second was term limits, so that the mayor, the city council, and the school committee would actually have what was originally proposed, no more than 8 years in any one seat. The third is what you see before you this evening, which is term lengths. Currently, the school committee in the city of Warwick serves 4-year terms. The mayor and the city council serve 2-year terms. When it was originally proposed, when I originally proposed the 3 questions as issues before the council, I put it on the docket. It was advertised. We had public meetings. The public meetings, I made a point of having them podcast as well as streaming video for any individuals who were not available to come that evening. Prior to me docketing the resolution on those 3 questions, I had taken it upon myself to initiate conversations throughout my ward and other wards. I'm very active throughout the city of Warwick in various community groups, with senior citizens groups, AARP, and the like, just to get a temperature reading to find out if there was any interest from the general public with regards to these 3 issues. When we went, finally, we had a committee. The committee was comprised of Councilman Gallucci, who's pro tem, Councilman Steve Colantuano, who is the minority leader, he's the Republican, myself. They were advertised appropriately on the Secretary of State office. When we went before, or when I went before the City Council with the 3 questions, what we found in committee was that one of the questions was not ripe. That one had to do with purchasing, and the City Council had decided that at some point they're going to want to do an audit of the full purchasing process within the city, so that one dropped off. With regards to the school committees and the membership, the City Council was not interested in discussing it at this time. And when it came to term limits, we had a rather brief discussion. There was one other councilman that was not interested. The council itself voted it down, and that as a question failed. We have 9 city council members, so that was an 8-1 vote against. The question before you is what the Warwick City Council and the mayor of Warwick wants to put before our voters. It was discussed in full detail with the council members that the purpose of the legislation was not that we would be curbing or lengthening anything. Certainly, we did not think that we had the authority to lengthen terms from 2 to 4 years, but that we would put the question on the ballot and allow the members of the general public, the voting public in Warwick, to come forward and tell us what it was that they wanted. Did they like the fact that their council members and the mayor only serve 2-year terms? Or would they like them lengthened to 4 years, which is what we have with the school committee? So the resolution that's before you, or the bill I should say that's before you this evening, is a request from the City of Warwick City Council, along with the Mayor of Warwick, to give us the authority to place on the ballot for this year a question before the voting public. Should terms be lengthened from 2 to 4 years? If the public votes yes, it would not take effect until 2017. And the reason that we did that, and the reason I could say that I did it in the discussion in the council chambers, was because we felt that it would not be fair for anyone who was deciding to run in an election this year in 2014, not knowing if they were making a 2 or 4 year commitment. So it made sense to post the question now, and so those individuals, if it excuse me, if it does pass, those individuals who aren't interested in making a 4-year commitment at a time would do so knowingly and not be surprised by it. And that's the resolution that's before you. Thank you.
Any questions for the councilwoman? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We have 3 other witnesses, all opposed. Donald Fife. If you, all 3 could come forward, Roger Durant and Roy Dempsey. Take a seat. You can press the button up so that you can be heard, and I'll start from my right.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. I think changing the term from 2 years to 4 years, changing to 4 years, they'd be running for election once every 4 years instead of twice every 4 years. If they're not doing the job, they can be voted out. Having 4 years, that would be it would be too long for the members of the city council and the mayor. I'm just against it. Should be kept the way it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, yes, sir. You in the center.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Roger Duran. I am opposed to this bill, and there's numerous reasons why I am. But first and foremost, as the councilwoman just mentioned, this was originally proposed with the concept that we were going to have term limits as well as extended terms. That's how it was proposed. I don't know if I'm for that or against that, and let me tell you just briefly why. We have some sewer issues in Warwick, which I won't get into tonight. But thank God we have Senator McCaffrey and Representative McNamara on our side, who have been in this legislature for close to 20 years. So as a citizen and a voting person, I think at first blush, term limits sound great, terrific, but they don't work, in my opinion. Secondly, there are so many issues going on in the city of Warwick that are mind-boggling with reference to, we're not the perfect city that we keep on hearing about. Let me give you a brief example. We just had city council budget hearings. Warwick right now is facing an unfunded obligation for pensions and health care of $600 million. $600 million unfunded. Do you know the city council didn't ask one question at budget hearings regarding that?
Mr. Duran, can I interrupt you for a minute?
Sure.
Would you concentrate on your testimony on only the merits of the bill?
Well,
I'm sure there are lots of issues in Warwick that you would disagree with.
Right, but the reason I bring this up, I think we have to have a 2-year term limit or a 2-year cycle. So let the voters decide whether or not these issues should be decided on when it comes to pension and the like. We shouldn't extend it to 4 years. And as I say, when the original bill came into being, we were talking about, okay, 2 4-year terms. But that was it after 8 years. Under this scenario, I think the process we want to get is we want to hold people accountable. I think we're holding people less accountable by this bill, the way it's structured right now. So that's my opinion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think you have a question, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm under the impression that this isn't going to establish the 4-year term, that it's going to allow the voters of your city to decide that.
That's true, but
Right, and you just got through saying that you put it out to the voters, so this actually will help you.
I see, in all due respect, I wonder how much the voters really know what it's all about. And by that I say, with the attendance we get at City Hall and the like, you go to a lot of voters, and unfortunately today they're very busy in their personal lives. So they will say to you, geez, I didn't even know that particular bill was coming up, or I didn't even know what my council person was doing, yada, yada, yada. So that's why I think every 2 years, it would be nice that the voters have a chance. And they have that right now. I just cannot go along with a 4-year term.
Representative Kazarian?
Yeah, just a quick comment. In East Providence, we had a similar legislation passed. It was 2 years ago, and the voters voted for it like I think it was 64 to 40, something like that. They voted for it overwhelmingly, and when you asked about them, you asked them afterwards, they were like, well, I don't really know what I was voting for. I just figured it'd be better. But one of my concerns with the 4-year term limits for city council is that Congress is running for 2 years, and our local officials aren't going to be held accountable. So it wasn't really a question, but thank you for.
Well, you see, that's
letting
my
me
point, too.
on. Sorry, thank you.
The
Yeah.
people here in the General Assembly are running every 2 years. Somebody made a comment, I think it was Representative McNamara said to me, we have the ultimate term limit. It's called voting every 2 years. And the people make the determination. Senator McCaffrey said the same thing to me. But anyhow, I know you got a lot on your plate tonight. I am opposed for it for the reason I said. I'm not going to get into the Warwick problems. There's multiplicity of them. But that's why I would like to see it kept at 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you. And last but not least, Mr. Dempsey. No relation, right?
Not that I know of. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'm here to be against this bill. And basically, I look around and I say, how many of you are for transparency? And if I ask that, I'm probably going to get a number of hands. When I saw a copy of this bill today, and I listened back to what was presented in terms of what the people thought was being presented that evening at the council chambers, there were term limits as well as lengthened terms were both combined. They were both together. What came out was lengthened terms. The people were, if anything, the confusion on this issue is more so today in Warwick than it has been in the past. Because the people of Warwick maybe some of them want term limits, some of them don't. But they thought that the council was getting into an action that was going to allow both the length of the term for the council and the mayor, as well as putting a limit on that mayoral or council term. And that didn't happen. That didn't occur. It was looking back, I'm thinking it was more like a bait and switch type of thing. That, hey, we're doing this because we think we've got everything in hand. But yet what came out of it was a strictly, something lengthening the term, which I don't believe, the councilwoman, Ward 3, says she's walked her ward, says she's discussed with the council, the people in the ward about this. I've never heard any discussion. What I think should occur with this particular issue is that if you want to go and present this as a standalone issue, let's go before the council again with this one issue. Let the people be aware of what's being presented, then let them come to the council knowing that this is what we're going to be looking at and voting on. The prior process was a confused process. It put people into a situation where they didn't know what was happening. What came out of it is something that I'm not sure if all the people in Warwick want this. Because there's a lot of dissension in Warwick. But I think if there's a hearing going forward, if there's a hearing just in this one issue, that way it can be put out there. There can be then public discussion as one issue, and then let it go before the voters as this particular legislation says it will. And that's my point. I think the process was bad. I think there was confusion in the process, and I think it should be, if you're going to do a do-over, and go back in with this particular resolution and let the people know that this is what's being discussed at the council chambers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dempsey. Any questions for Mr. Dempsey? All right, that concludes the agenda tonight for the House Committee on Municipal Government. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
Seconded. All those in favor, aye. Aye. Thank you.